This is part two of the segment. I also wanted to let you know when they came back last night, they walked past as I was doing my paint and sip, and they yelled out, cockle-doodle-doo, N-word, N-word, N-word. And then they went to a location. I told the police officer that night when they came out that I would record I asked him, I said, well, I didn't record the incident because I didn't know, I believe they were children and I didn't want to record children. I didn't know what the issue was behind that, right? And so he told me, you can definitely record. You can definitely record. Not a problem. In Georgia, you can record. It's not a problem. Do it, And so I said, well, the next time that I see them, I will actually absolutely record them. And the next time was the next day. They came back. And the audacity of setting a fire and then coming back, and not only coming back, but forcefully destroying the site, it says a lot. It says a lot about their boldness. It says a lot about what's being allowed. And, these are things that are harmful, not only, like I said, to the individual, but to the wildlife that's there as well. Last night, like I said, I took the long way around and I called the police and I said, hey, the individuals that caused the fire last night, they're back here again. And as promised, I would like to take a picture, but, for my safety, I'm not going to do that right now. But I want to let them know and have the police meet me at, an adjacent public location. So the police did come out. They approached the children. And, I kind of stood off and I was on live. And just so that you know, that when you're recording and the police are around, they can control your device, okay? So I realized that after I started moving, the bright light on my phone came on. So the bright light on my phone made me think that I was still on live or recording. I didn't know what happened because I don't even know how to put the bright light on. But please know, when you call the police, they can control your device, and they can make it so that you cannot use your device until you call your mobile carrier, if you have a mobile carrier in place. But yeah, so they can do that, just so you know. And so, because I made sure that I was close enough so that I could still have the Wi-Fi connection and to continue on. But, like I said, as I was walking towards, the bright flash came on the light, and, the officers spoke to them, then they came to me. And when they came over to me, they said, what did they say? And when I called the police back, because I said, well, hey, I told them I was going to take a picture. The officers are here. They're talking to the individuals. But I didn't take the picture or do a recording of them because I did not want to put myself in danger. So what I'm going to do, as the officers are here, I'll walk around the track, because she asked me for a description of them. And I said, I can't tell you what they're wearing because I didn't look. I didn't look at them like that because I didn't want an issue. But I said, since you are here on the phone, I'm going to walk around the track so that I can get a better description and tell you what each of the ones are wearing. And I told them what they were wearing this particular night. The tall boy still had on the same thing, the camel-colored hoodies or sweatshirt. One of the guys had on a white hoodie, and at one time there was a red hat on top, a red hoodie. So I don't know if he had on two hoodies, and one was red and one was white. And he was very verbal. And what he said to me was, I know she's not calling the police. You stupid N-word, B-I-T-C-H. And, you sat there and watched us set your things on fire yesterday, and we'll set the rest of this stuff on fire too. So that was the threat that was made. And I'm sure they have no problem following up on that because nothing's happening, right? Now, the thing about it, that's the systemic barrier portion of it, is as you don't know what the ramifications are. They could just simply say, it could be turned around, like I said, and says something else. And the reason I also didn't even look their way or anything, because then they were saying, oh, she's stalking, whatever. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. You set items on fire. You can definitely see that a fire was set, I didn't say that to them because I have absolutely zero. Those people are dangerous. Zero words for them at all. The only words I have is to the public and to hopefully not need it again, the police. Now, the other things that, that business has been there for a while. So, they probably know the people, know the children and whatever and so forth and so on. I think, as far as the way things go in regards to the way they handle it and the way they could have handled it, for better or for worse, is, mid-range, because as you know, people that are, subject to isms, whether it be racism, classism, socioeconomic classism, a lot of times end up with what would be called the short end of the stick. So they did say that, hey, you dumb N-word, B-I-T-C-H, we said, you sat and watched us set your stuff on fire, and we'll set the rest of your SHIT on fire too. Said that. And the thing that's scary is that when I called the operator and I shared that that's what I was doing, the police mentioned to me that the operator had a complaint that I was not answering her questions and I was talking over her. Me talking over her was giving her the description of each of the individuals, because last night when they came, there were 5 individuals versus 4. And I wanted to make sure that the 5th one that wasn't there and had nothing to do with it, was not, implicated. I don't want to implicate somebody that doesn't deserve to be implicated. So, yeah. And that's the thing, when you call the police, and just like the last time I called the police for the white guy that was, trying to abuse me, the thing that was said when I called back for the case number is, you call back for the case number, you make it seem like I'm not doing my job. And I don't know if the police come out and they don't get my name, do they still have a case number? Is there still a report? There has to be a report filed. So I'm not sure about that, but that's something I need to look into. So again, just bringing awareness. And then also, as I walked around to that location, I stopped by, there was a neighbor sitting outside, and kudos to that neighbor. Thank you. I just let him know, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up that yesterday there were a group of 4 Caucasian teens that set a fire over at this location, and I called the police. And he says, I know, I saw you. And I said, okay, just letting you know that they're here again today, and I'm going to, I called the police and told them I was going to the library and to meet me there, and I'm walking in that direction. So I just want to let you know what's going on. So, if you see something, you can say something. So I'm walking through, and of course the kids are yelling out what they're yelling out. I get to the, library, and to that location, and I wait. And later, when everything was over, and, I was gathering my things, I had so much stuff, and I let them know, hey, I walked to where my neighbor was again, and the police said that the children walked over in the direction of the neighbor. And I was just like, because they said they lived over there, and the officer said he didn't know which way he pointed. I was like, they don't live over there. There's only black and Spanish, and actually on that particular street is only black, And when I talked to that neighbor, I had a conversation just updating them on everything that went on. When I updated them on everything that went on, they advised, I saw those people that you were talking about, and they had walked over into the empty lot next to his house. And they were just sitting there. I didn't even know they were there. So had that neighbor not spoke, that's why we need to watch out for each other, spoke to me, I wouldn't have known they were there. I would have continued walking that street, probably got jumped. The police were sitting there still waiting, right? Probably would have got jumped or, called out to and had something twisted and turned. Those children are smart. They're silent. When they set the fire, they didn't make a whole bunch of noise. They just said, "Is this her stuff? Is this her stuff?" And next thing I know, I saw the light. So, yeah. And then also that neighbor advised me, that they broke a bottle on the bench. And I was like, wow, had that neighbor not told me that, I wouldn't have known that either. I didn't know how much danger I was in. I was in a lot of danger. I didn't know these now 4 boys and a girl, and I think she's the mastermind of it all, have now broken a bottle, probably in hopes of hurting me or preparation to hurt me. Now, previous situations, they have, called out and said things, but I ignored it because I said, they can't possibly be talking to me. And I ended up seeing an onion bag filled with huge rocks. And I wanted to think, oh, kids just playing with rocks, but usually people use those things to swing and hit people and things like that. So I don't know if they were going to prepare to pummel me or something like that. But if you catch the gist of the area and those teens probably belong to that business. There is an individual, from that business that drives an ATV that comes out and harasses me on occasion. So, and when I say harass, they'll wait till I get to the darkest part of the road and be like, "You good? You good?" And that's a burn test, to see how you're going to respond. And then the back of their business faces this public location, but it was typically wooded, but they cut down a portion that's directly behind them so that they could put their RVs and boats and stuff out there. The water's not even high enough for all that, for the most part. But like I said, every day there is a mission. Today is Sacred Sundays. We have Mindful Mondays, Transformation Tuesdays, What We Would Need Wednesdays, Thankful Thursdays, Fruitful Fridays, and Stillness Saturday. So if you'd like to join me and you kind of figured out the location, please do. Don't be afraid of me. For me, I'm an introverted extrovert, so that means that I only speak when I have a purpose, And the thing about it is that when I have a purpose and I start getting in tune with things, I can be very verbal and passionate, and so I'll flow. I am an artistic person. I would love for you to get to know me. I would love for you to get to know my organization in the process of reincorporation, and I say that, but it may never happen, because it's all about the work. It's not about the title or any of that. And it's about getting to know the members of your community, in a way that's comfortable to them. So please, come out. As long as God is willing, I'll have some type of refreshment, eat at your own risk. Today on this Sacred Sunday, I have chicken soup with rice. It's basically, like I said, a lot of my items were damaged, so whatever can do in one pot, and that's what I can do in one pot, you're welcome to it. You just have to bring your own container, okay? Or you can bring your own music, your energy, your vibe, chat it up. And it doesn't mean that every time you see me, because, this is my creative workspace. I work from here and a lot of public places, until I can't anymore. But it doesn't mean you have to speak to me. It doesn't mean you have to even acknowledge me, because I understand privacy. One of the things that I used to kind of demonstrate this is there was the sitcom Seinfeld, and on that sitcom, there was a situation where they lived in an apartment building. Every time they got off of work, there was a woman that, got on the elevator at the same time. One day he decided, well, she seems like a nice lady. I'll speak. He said hi. But then every time after that, she's really bubbly and she's speaking every time. You don't necessarily want to talk to her every time. When you see me, probably 9.99 times out of 10, you're not going to want to talk to me. And it's okay. You don't have to speak. Just because you speak once don't mean that you always have to speak. It doesn't mean that you know me or I know you. It just means that you spoke once, And that's it. Anyways, I love you with the love of Christ.